Welcome back to Strictly Money. The Bank of Canada has raised the benchmark interest rate once again. The hike is the eighth one in a row, and it brings the rate to 4.5%. Now, this comes at a time when homeowners are already struggling with the highest borrowing rates in almost 20 years, and where prospective owners could soon face even tougher mortgage rules. Joining me now with his thoughts on what this could mean for the housing market is mortgage broker Ron Butler. Ron, great to have you on.
Hey, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
So hikes like this, it makes a lot of mortgage holders nervous. How are you reading the housing market right now? Are you starting to see cracks in terms of people defaulting, or is there still a lot of resilience?
Well, default rates are at historic lows, but there's certain areas in the housing marketplace that are feeling it more than others. If we think about it, they might be obvious, but there's if you're not involved in it, it's hard to say. For instance, we have people who bought pre-construction homes. Some of these are houses and semis and townhouses that might have been bought 2 years ago, 18 months ago, and will be coming on stream for people to take occupancy in the next 6 months. Now, some of those purchases were at probably apex pricing in Ontario and British Columbia. They were at the highest point in the price cycle. And coming into the next 6 months, some of these houses are simply not going to be worth as much as the people paid for them. And that could be a serious problem when appraisals come through for less than the purchase price, and people are going to have to find more down payment. Now, that isn't everybody's. Some people find it easy to accomplish, but it's definitely going to be an interesting 6 months.
Yeah, definitely. And I was actually wondering, because you hear some reports of condo builders saying, "Well, we need more money, so you got to pony up." Are you seeing that?
Well, that's rare. That is
Okay.
fairly rare. What we are seeing in the condo space is another phenomenon, which is those who bought multiple units, say 4 years ago, 5 years ago. These people actually never intended to actually close on the condo and own it. They intended to flip those condos by assignment to others who would finally close and either use them as investment properties or live in them themselves. Now what's happened is there's a lot more concern about the easy returns there. Like, will everybody be willing to pay $100,000 more than what the original people paid? Maybe they're going to have a hard time selling them by assignment. Now, the key thing is for those who bought 2 or 3 or 4 at a time, who never expected to close, if they do have to actually close and come up with all the money to purchase these condos, they may not be eligible for mortgages because they never expected to have to do it. So that's another layer of concern that's going to evolve this year.
Ron, I see a lot of headlines like, prices are down double digits, but from what I can see, they're still well above pre-COVID levels, even with mortgage rates at these levels. Are you expecting prices to fall further? And, I'm just wondering what happens in the spring when the activity is kind of in full force.
Well, actually, there's been a flurry of activity in the last 3 weeks, essentially from the day after the New Year's break. There's been accelerated interest in pre-approvals. There's been more purchases than probably the whole month of December. There's definitely a bit of activity. This may be a reflection of a number of different forces. There has been some reduction in fixed rate mortgages. They're down from in the 5s down to in the 4s. And this may have encouraged some people to go out and buy. Let's face it, there's always people looking to buy a home. There's first-time buyers who felt frustrated for the last year. They were uncertain. There is pent-up demand. It does happen. I think there's still an opportunity for prices to drop in some of the most expensive regions. Again, Ontario and the Lower Mainland of British Columbia. Still those chances that prices will grind down, but there is a little flurry right now.
Okay. We only have about 45 seconds to the break. So do you think that there is a floor to housing prices, especially because, we still have record immigration coming in and, like you said, still pent up demand and not enough supply?
Yeah, there's always a floor in Canada on home prices. Trouble is, we don't really know where the floor is. Like, the floor could come down quite a bit further before it actually does turn into a concerted upswing in prices. It is true though. We have some supply issues, and we certainly have record immigration.
Okay, we will take a quick commercial break and we'll come back. Lots more to uncover. Stay with us. Welcome back. Ron, I want to get your thoughts on Canada's banking watchdog. This is OSFI. It looks like they're looking to beef up stress tests. How do you feel about it?
Specifically, they're looking to increase the scrutiny of the relationship between people's income and their total lending. They're going to look more closely at just how much car loans, car leases, student loans. They want to develop more of a relationship to total lending versus the income people have. We've always had that in our business. There's always been debt ratio servicing that needs to be hit, but they are looking at making it a little bit tighter and really for people to not exceed a specific percentage in relationship to their income.
Okay. Is there a way to circumvent it?
To supplement it?
To circumvent it.
Oh, circumvent it. I'm sorry.
For those who are they really want a home, you kind of hear things about that. So,
well, we saw last year, we saw the CBC Marketplace documentary about mortgage document fraud in Canada. These are situations where fake income verification documents, and even as far as fake phone call responses to people to banks looking to confirm income verification. I mean, it's a fairly sophisticated program in some communities and in some areas. It is pretty regional. Like, certainly nobody in Manitoba knows what we're talking about. But the reality is that it is there. It's not massive, but by its own nature, it shouldn't exist at all.
Yeah.
There should be better, more sophisticated ways to make sure income is correct. And it shouldn't be tolerated in the system. But these coming changes that we might see by September, October, put into place, if they further restrict people's ability to borrow money to buy houses, get mortgages to buy houses, we may see a slight uptick in it. I'm hopeful we can find a way around that.
Okay. So for those who are in mortgages now that might be coming up for renewal, or those who are looking at mortgages, what advice do you have? Should they go variable or fixed, and for how long?
Well, we have been, very adamant that it makes no sense to take a variable mortgage at this point. Right now, variable mortgages are more expensive, higher rates than short-term fixed-rate mortgages. Therefore, it makes no sense for the consumer to take on a variable rate mortgage with the hope that it's going to come down. You shouldn't pay a premium for hope. That should never happen. So we're recommending short-term fixed-rate mortgages, 1, 2, or 3 year terms.
Okay. Ron, we really have a affordability issue in Canada, right? And I guess from where I sit, it doesn't seem like there's a real effort by our politicians to fix this. I'm curious to know your views and whether we will ever see reasonable home prices.
It's a great question, and it's potentially the great dilemma of our time. You have a group of people who bought houses in the last 20 years that have seen massive appreciation, great increases in equity. They feel their own wealth effect through their house becoming much more valuable, and those people are very much disinterested in seeing the price of houses go down. Similarly, we have young people, we have a new generation coming up, and we have new immigrants to Canada who are saying to themselves, wow, these are some of the most expensive houses in the world in British Columbia and Ontario. What's going on here? I mean, this is really going to stifle my ability to own a home. So those are two solitudes that really trouble politicians. And so far, their solutions have been all lousy. They talk about with great flourishes, the prime minister, the finance minister, the housing minister announces an extra 274 units in a given community. Like, what in the world is
Yeah.
274 units going to do when there's 500,000 people coming into Canada this year?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big issue, and it's going to continue. Really appreciate your time today, Ron. Thanks
Thanks.
for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks
We'll
for
have
having
to
me.
have you back. Ron Butler, mortgage broker. Well, that wraps up this episode. How are you feeling about home prices? Are you looking to get in? Are you worried about where home prices are going? And are you looking for a mortgage and want to learn more? Drop us an email. We can answer your questions. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, stay well, stay wise, and stay wealthy.